Now, staying kind of with the teaching theme, when Carl Magnus Helgegren's young sons told him they wanted to play violent computer games, instead of arguing, he struck a deal with them. He would take them to the fringes of a war zone, and if, when they came back, they still wanted to play the games, they could. Carl took 11-year-old Leo and Frank, who was 10, to Israel, the West Bank and Syria to witness the physical and emotional impact of war on people. He told me how the subject first came up.
Well, we were sitting around the dinner table one evening in November last year, and my boys, they started telling me about this new game, Call of Duty game that had been released, and they were telling me about the guns and the missions. And then while I was sitting there, I just started thinking about when I was in the Middle East working to cover demonstrations on the West Bank. Before going there to work, I was 29. And I thought I had a pretty good idea about what war was, but once I got there, I understood that I had no idea. And I wasn't even experiencing war. I was experiencing occupation and demonstration. I made a deal with them right there. I said, if you go with me to a place where there has been war, and you do interviews with people who are affected by the negative effects of war, once we get back, I'm going to let you play any games you choose.
And what did they say? Were they instantly up for it, or did you need to encourage them a bit more?
Actually, they didn't say anything. They just kind of looked at me and smiled, and I could see them thinking, Dad, this is just another one of your crazy ideas. This is never gonna happen. But sure, we'll say yeah.
But it did happen, and I believe I'm right in saying that when you spoke to their mother, from whom you're separated, she was a bit worried, but she said she would come along too.
Yeah, that's right. The Easter break was approaching, and she called me up and said, what are we going to do? Are they going to be at like daycare, or are they going to be with you? And I said, out of the hat like that, I said, well, I think we should go to the Middle East, and it's time for the children to see something else than just Sweden and Spain and Greece.
So where in the Middle East did you take the boys, and what did they see?
We landed in Jerusalem, and the first day we kind of just saw the sights. And the next day I took them to Shuafat refugee camp, which is right between Ramallah and Jerusalem. And they had to go through a checkpoint, and also they saw like the roads were not fixed, children in dirty clothes. It was kind of misery, kind of like that. And we went to a school. Right opposite to the school was a more or less illegal drug market. After that we went to a medical clinic in Shuafat, where the manager, I had him explain to my children what the situation was like for children their own age. And he said that he was stitching up children more or less every day who had been beaten in the head by the butt of a gun from a soldier, because the children had pelted rocks at the soldiers. And also he explained to them that he was treating 3 children who were in wheelchairs for having been shot through the spine with rubber bullets. And when he said no more football practice, I kind of saw that my children really opened up their eyes, and they went quiet.
Did you ever worry at any point through all of this that even though you were trying to open their eyes, you might be, I don't know, affecting them in a negative way, you might be traumatizing them, because they were only 10 and 11?
Yes, of course. I mean, as a parent, you're always worried that, am I overdoing this? But at the same time, since their mother was there, and we really took a lot of time to talk about what they had experienced. And also we didn't only go to these war zone sites, to call it. The next day we let the children rest. We went to the zoo. We also went to Israel Museum and studied the history of the area, and let them rest for a while before we went up to occupied Syria and the Golan Heights and showed them the minefields and the border to Syria. We were 60 kilometers from Damascus. I was very careful, because if I had traumatized them, the whole point of the journey would have been, you know, it would have made no sense. Then it just wouldn't have the effect. What
kind of reaction did you get when you came back? Because I've seen some photographs that you put out of the children. One is of them posing with Israeli soldiers. Another one is of them on top of I presume it's an Israeli tank. There must have been other photographs as well, but what kind of reaction did you get? Well, I didn't really get so much negative reactions concerning the photographs. Well, of course, some said that I was
painting it all black, and I was making this into a political issue, which I stressed to the children that we're not here to study national politics. We're here to see where human rights are being violated. Then I wrote a debate article on Swedish national television site, and I just said that I was really tired to listening to parents who were allowing their children to play these games, although they didn't have the age to play them, and at the same time complaining that they were playing the games. I just told them to shut up, and I thought it was their own fault because they were stupid and that they were cowardice for not addressing the problem. And there I got a lot of negative reactions. I was the most pompous and idiotic dad in the world and all these things.
Presumably there were some parents who applauded what you did and said that it was a good idea.
Oh yes, I mean this was 98% of the feedback that I got. I mean, I got a woman from California who called me up and woke me up one morning and said, I just wanted to thank you personally. I've had all this support. I mean, it's just like Dad of the Year. It's just it keeps going, it doesn't stop. But
I suppose the question we all want to know the answer to is, when the boys came back, what did they want to do about the computer games? Did they want to watch them or not? Once we came back, life kind of just went back to ordinary really quickly. They were in school the next day and we didn't really talk about it. And then 1 week later, when they came back to me after having been with their mother, I told them, okay, so now you've fulfilled your part of the deal. Now you get to choose. And I was really stressing that you don't have to choose what I want you to choose. You choose what you want to choose. And so they looked at each other and they said, we don't want to play the games anymore. And I asked them why, and they said, because it doesn't feel right. I was really impressed by their choice and the way they reasoned. That was Carl Magnus Helgegren. We're joined this morning by Educating Yorkshire's Mr Burton. Matt, this idea then of, I suppose a lot of parents have this problem where their kids want to play, maybe they're 10 or 11 and they want to play a computer game. It's quite violent. There's a certificate 18. This guy decided, right, I'll take them to a war zone and show them what war is actually about, you know, what bullet wounds are actually like. Is that a good idea? Because he got quite a lot of criticism from other parents. Well, I certainly wouldn't run it as a school trip. I don't think we get past the risk assessment. But
the health and safety assessment.
Well, yeah, the risk assessments are difficult as it is. It's people make their own decisions and their own choices about how they bring their children up, and he's made a decision of that ilk. And I think sometimes, you look at some of these games, and there's a reason that they are certificate 18. I was talking to a chap on the train who yesterday who sells these games. He kind of works for one of the companies, and he said it blew his mind that parents would buy these games for kids who were under 18 because they go through exactly the same vetting process as films, as and everything else that has a certificate on it. So it's he's taking the bull by the horns, so to speak, and.
But do you feel you're in competition, Matt, with children who come into school whose maybe attention is completely absorbed by video games or social media or something like that? Do you feel you have to work harder to get people's attention? I think, we're in a very privileged job. It's the best job in the world as far as I'm concerned, and I feel very, very lucky that we get to do that job. But there are always going to be, I think, regardless of what era you're in, for me it would have been magazines and books and whatever else, and I think teachers have to. You don't have to vie for the attention, but you have to make sure that you're appealing and make sure that you are engaging and the students in front of you, because they're not sat there playing Call of Duty in front of you. You've just got to kind of make sure that the attention's there and that you kind of light that fire within them. And sometimes it's about making the content relevant. For me, it was hoops and tops. Yes, I was just never paying attention to my scratchy old slate, but there we go. Now, there's nothing on this programme we like more than to wander the keck-fringed towpaths of England, our dachshund snapping at our feet, rediscovering the lost life of the bargee. On such a ramble, we might well meet the Dead Rat Orchestra, actually 3 heavily bearded gentlemen who are chugging slowly round our canal.